We're into the second half of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. We head to Brands Hatch in Kent for the British races. In the Garden County of England, in the southeast corner, Brands Hatch is redolent of history. The corner's named after some of the all-time greats, and the Grand Prix circuit still one of the world's great drivers' tracks, with every corner a major challenge. 3.7 kilometres, 2.5 tight and twisting miles, the scenery always close at hand. And in previous years, it's been a happy hunting ground for BMW and for Chevrolet. Chevrolet taking their first ever win here in streaming wet conditions. Well, as you look down on the grid here, ready for round 15 of the championship, race 1 here at Brands Hatch, we'll be hoping to avoid those wet conditions. There were a few spots of rain just now, but it is looking as though there are bright blue skies on their ways. Good news for the World Touring Car Championship. Good news also for England's cricketers 30 miles away, trying to beat Australia at Lord's in the centre of London. Well, I'm Martin Haven, alongside me John Clellan. John, yesterday track temperature was over 30 degrees for qualifying and the air up to about 20. It's a little brisker this morning, but it shouldn't make too much difference, should it, to the driving surface?
No, not at all. I mean, there's not such a big difference in track temperature. The guys are not really struggling with tyres as such. They're struggling with a lack of grip on this Grand Prix track because it doesn't get used often enough. It doesn't rubber up, and as soon as you get a lot of rubber down, it gets much more grippy, and the guys were all complaining yesterday in free practice. And then again in qualifying, Alan Menu, for instance, who ended up in pole position, complained to his engineer John Waterman, there is no grip, it's terrible, and then boom, he was fastest. So maybe he should drive a car with no grip all the time.
Well, Ivan Muller was exactly the same. He said, I've never known the Indy circuit be quite so slippery. He said it's incredible, and that seemed to be the general feeling from everybody. And it seems maybe that there's been a lot of racing on the Indy circuit recently, maybe a little bit more oil down than people were expecting, or maybe just in comparison to the Grand Prix circuit that they were expecting to be relatively low grip because of its relative low use. They were expecting more on the Indy circuit and just didn't find it. But we had a thoroughly exciting two-period qualifying session yesterday, all sorts of drama, and it didn't finish when we went off air either, did it? There's a few penalties being handed out.
No, it was the best qualifying I think we've seen. People like Ivan Muller ending up in 11th place, and I spoke to Ivan last night and he said it was stupid. I was lying second in Q1. I was 3/4 of a second inside, happily we thought, inside the top 10, so I didn't go back out. And then all of a sudden everyone after another went bump, bump, bump faster, and Ivan ended up in 11th place. He was unhappy, but I think he's got a car capable of doing a particularly good job. And as you can see, we're on board here with Alain Menu. Presumably this is on his pole lap.
Yeah.
And he just loves this place. It was just one of those sort of qualifying sessions yesterday where, for instance, Augusto Farfus went across the line to start his lap. Up until the point of that lap, he was 14th. 1 second and he got across the line and ended up sort of fourth on the grid.
So when he finished his lap, of course, it was a BMW lockout for the front row,
Andy Priaulx and himself.
Yeah, but then as they were just starting to cheer, suddenly Menu and Huff came across the line. Huff first to take pole, Menu right behind him to take pole away. So you've got, look, 2 by 2, 2 Chevrolets, 2 BMWs, 2 Seat Leon TDIs. Great looking grid with all the major manufacturers racked up in there. In 9th place, Norbert Michaelis, the independent driver in his Seat Leon, his prize drive for being fastest at Porto.
A petrol
Seat Leon in the top 10. And then we get into the penalties. Jörg Muller dropped down to 13th place, wasn't he?
From 8th.
Yep.
He was 8th, which was quite a harsh penalty because all he did, he went out into the fast lane, leaving the pit lane before the session had started, and rather sort of rolling back into the pit lane and saying, I'm sorry I've done that, they just sat there. So they penalised him, they charged him I think €500 and flicked him from 8th place down to, I don't know, what is he, 16th? 13th, yeah.
Robert Dahlgren was 13th quickest. All his times were disallowed because the car was up on its air jacks in Parc Fermé between Q1 and Q2.
But they weren't actually working on that Volvo, they just forgot to drop it back down, and I think that's the inexperience of the team in this World Championship, not understanding the regulations that quite control it all.
Yeah.
And the fact was no one was working on the car. It was still up on the air jacks. It was deemed to therefore be getting worked on during that Parc Fermé situation. So they flicked him right to the tail end of the grid. He starts 25th on the grid, which is a shame, because I think that Volvo had a good chance of getting into the top 10.
Christian Poulsen had an engine change in his car. He was dropped 10 places as a result of that. Also had a tangle with his teammate, got knocked off at the start. And Jordi Genet, 16th fastest, he had all his times disallowed because his engine data logger was not connected to the engine speed sensor. So the track has now, by the way, been declared a wet track. And that means if rain comes, they will not red flag the race because of rain. It's up to the teams then to react to the weather conditions as they see fit. John, there were just a few little misting drops of rain coming down before the cars went out onto the grid. It was quite windy, but it seems to have blown the clouds by us, and it is bone dry still. There's no question that it's slick weather, but over the trees, well, that's where the weather's coming from, straight along the straight here from the back there, from the London direction, from the west. You can see the spectators are wrapped up a little bit more than they were in warm-up, and those umbrellas suggest there might just be the odd spot of rain still in the air, but nothing on the cameras to show that.
I don't think we'll see much rain here. The wind is so strong, I think if it's going to happen, it's only going to blow it over very quickly. But this is definitely a slick starting race for certain at this moment in time.
So everybody getting ready for the first race here at Brands.
To the end of this grid.
Looking here, Thiago Monteiro on the grid at Brands Hatch, ready for the start of the first of two races here this weekend. Thiago in 8th position, and 2 wins so far in the World Touring Car Championship. That's his career total. He's now in his 3rd season, isn't he, with the SEAT team, and Thiago, like Jordi Genet, very much the assistant now in the squad. You can see the flag of Guernsey there in the grandstand. Lots of support for the British drivers here, and the sort of adopted British drivers, and among those, of course, we've got Yvan Muller and Alain Menu and Ricard Riedel
Gabriele Tarquini and so on.
Yeah, exactly half the grid. So looking here at Nicola Larini, disappointed with qualifying with his teammates on the front row. Just a little bit disappointed that he couldn't quite find the lap at the right time. It's quite a long circuit, the Grand Prix circuit, but he just wasn't in the right place at the right time.
But he is driving better this year than I've seen him drive. I mean, I've said this before, a couple of years. He's been very disappointing as far as I could see as a team player with a car with the 2 teammates beating him consistently. This year, he's done a great job. He's done very well. He's driving very well. And he's won a race, and that's got his head up because he's a lot more confident than I've seen him for a long time. But interestingly, after qualifying, James Thompson, who's driving the ladder here, with 2nd time out in the ladder, he ended up 23rd on the grid. But this morning in free warm-up, James did a time after all the adjustments that he's made to the car overnight. He's done a time that would have put him 14th on the grid. So I think that's moving forward, and that's exactly why the ladder team have employed James, to give his knowledge, his experience of what a good touring car should drive like, because he's driven the SEATs, the factory SEATs. He's driven factory Hondas. He's driven the factory Vauxhalls. He knows exactly what a good car should feel like. So.
Absolutely, and his N Technology engineer Andrea is here with him, who engineered him in that Honda last year and in the Alfa Romeo the year before, and 2 years before that as well. So a lot of trust and development going on between the two of them. Cars being cleared from the grid now. We've got inside 3 minutes before we go, so tyre warmers are off. Cars are down on the ground. And if they're not, then they will be penalised for that as well. Augusto Farfus, 4th place on the grid here. As we said, looked like he was on a front row start until the dead minutes of qualifying after the checkered flag. Suddenly the 2 BMWs got bumped onto row 2. Farfus, and this might come as a surprise, it certainly did, I think, to me when I looked at it earlier on, in the all-time winners in the World Touring Car Championship, Farfus has more victories than anyone else. He's won 11 races compared to 10 of the likes of Andy Priaulx and Yvan Muller, Jürgen Muller, his teammate, Alain Menu rather, Priaulx's there as well. Augusto Farfus, more poles than anyone else. He's led more laps than anyone else, which is something perhaps that might come as a bit of a shock. Be interesting to see if they can come up with a stat of how many other cars he's been involved in being wrecked with. For a long time, it seemed that he was the target of some bizarre accidents, but just occasionally he's been the trigger for some bizarre accidents as well. And in the last couple of race weekends, then that's certainly been the case. He's had to fight hard to try and get himself back into contention. He is BMW's only realistic championship challenger now, and that will increasingly be the case if Andy Priaulx, Jürg Müller and the rest have to lose points for him. Down to the front row of the grid then, more spots of rain on the windscreen as we look at Rob Huff on the outside of the front row, and his teammate Alain Menu will be starting on pole. And John, you're on slicks, they're hot now, but they'll be cooling down with every second. There's drops of rain, and you can actually see rain falling now, drops of water on the windscreen. What's that going to do to your psychology in your head when you're sitting there on the front row of the grid? Well, the tyre warmers have come off, the tyres are cooling down very, very quickly. It's very windy, and when you go around on this warm-up lap here to form up, you don't really get enough heat in the tyres. Everybody weaves around, and frankly, weaving around puts no heat whatsoever in the tyres. All it's doing is keeping the tyre clean. The easiest way to put heat in the tyres is these guys are left foot braking the cars really hard to put heat from the disc that will dissipate up through the wheel and then through into the tyre. And that's what puts more heat into the tyre than all the weaving around. But the problem is, there is on the sighting lap, if you want, leading up to start the race, they'll be looking to see if it's a little bit wetter, because it's quite a long track. You know, you're talking, it's a 2.5 mile long track. They've got a long way around. It could be a little bit wetter at the back of the track than it is down here at start finish line. Umbrellas are up now, probably at the back of the track. Yeah, it could just be a little bit dodgy. Now, a front wheel drive car struggles to get heat into the rear tyres because there is no weight back there. The rears do nothing other than hold the bumper up, and the BMWs will get the heat generation through the tyres much, much faster. So the two Chevrolets of Alain Menu and Rob Huff really have to block the rest of them, and I'm presuming that they've already had a conversation about, is it whoever's the quickest Chevrolet into the first corner will be allowed to get on with it, and the other one will to some extent hold back the BMW and the SEAT sort of armada that's going to come through, because the manufacturers' championship is still quite open, and Chevrolet could do with a couple of really, really good strong scores. That'll lift them back up in the manufacturers' championship as well. Lots of umbrellas up in the grandstand. And you see the wipers on in some of the cars. The wipers are on the cars and on the safety car. There is more rain coming down out of the cloud. There is blue sky coming as well, so it's by no means certain that it's going to be torrential, or that the track, if it gets damp, will get wet or will stay wet. But in the background, it's looking still pretty leaden, so worrying times indeed for everybody. Well done, boys. Everybody's bringing umbrellas and waterproofs here. Of course, it is the British summer. We're not exactly idiots here, you know. We are prepared for this stuff. It would be interesting to have been connected up to one of the drivers on this sighting lap, so we could hear exactly what they're doing, because they're talking to their engineers to say, hang on, I think I'm going to come in pit lane and change tyres and start this race then, or they're saying no, don't worry about it, it's okay, we've got plenty of grip. But you see the rear of that Chevrolet of Rob Huff there, really loose. Yes. And I suspect just about everybody there's got windscreen wipers on, and the rear of those little cars are skipping around. There's just no temperature, and when you get no temperature, you get no grip. So testing times indeed. We're going to go, of course, for the rolling start here, so no chance to sit on the grid and ponder it anymore. We're now in the start procedure for race 1 in Brands Hatch. Wet weather tyres being prepared in the pit lane as the drivers are coming around the Grand Prix loop here on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, ready for the start of race 1. On board with Rob Huff. Still a few spots of rain dropping. It doesn't look any wetter out the back than it did round the front. Safety car leads the field around. Alain Menu and Rob Huff first and second. Andy Priaulx and Augusto Farfus third and fourth, John. And all the wipers are off now, you see. So around the back, the guys have decided, it's probably not as wet. I see everyone's got the wipers off. But the difficult part now is as everyone barrels down into turn 1, Paddock Hill Bend, and downhill. It's a downhill right-hander. The back of these cars are really loose, and that's the point where if we're going to see chaos, I would suggest that's where we're going to see it, down into Paddock Hill Bend on this first lap. If we get around the first lap, they'll build temperature up in the tyres, then the cars will become much more stable. So here we go, ready for the start in Brands. The Chevrolets leading, BMW on row 2, Seat on row 3. Let's see how we go. On the bottom side of the racetrack, last year's 2 winners, Alain Menu, and behind him Andy Priaulx, and away we go. And already the Seats are charging. It's 3-4 wide. Priaulx's looking inside the Chevrolet. Rob Huff goes around the outside of Alain Menu. Menu being very cautious indeed. Huff gets a flying start. Farfus drifts out a little wide. Inside goes Nicola Larini. He's looking for run up to Druids. It's Huff, it's Menu, it's Priaulx, and that's Farfus sideways.
Farfus, yeah.
Oh, and that's Vito Postiglione piled up in the air in one of the Protein BMWs. And
one of the Volvos.
One of the Volvos. That is Norbert Michaelis. That car is wrecked. Everybody's on the grass, which is also very wet.
We're going to have a red flag here.
Yes, no question. The race will be suspended. The car to be brought back to the grid. There's not a chance of clearing all that wreckage away. Somebody was just creeping down Graham Hill Bend.
Rob Huff made a fantastic start. Oh,
Yvan Muller, the world champion, is out. That's not going to be fixed for race 1.
Certainly not.
So he might score in race 2, but it is Huff from Menu, from Priaulx, Tarquini. This is a great chance for Gabrielli. He's
safety
got
cars
to,
on track.
Yes, safety car will be waiting.
So they're not going to red flag it. They're going to hold the stuff back.
Well, they're going to have trouble up at Druids. The problem there, John, is not that there might be cars in the way. You can drive around that. It's the debris that might be sitting there that then could lead to puncture tyres. Look, bright sunshine now. There's the gap in the clouds we were talking about. Well, long faces. Huff, Menu, Priaulx, Tarquini, Rydell, Larini. Yvan Muller is out.
I'd like to see what happened with Yvan Muller, because I'm not sure who collected Yvan. That seemed really strange.
Well, Farfus is out, Philip Geipel, Franz Engstler, Kirill Ladigin and Robert Dahlgren all involved in that. There's Engstler, Geipel, Farfus there. Not too much damage, but of course now again they're going to have to rescue him from the back of the field to get him up in the points. Yvan Muller's looking for something, anything. Give me a tow, come on.
He's looking for a lift. He's trying to get the car lifted back.
Get me on the truck, get me back. Norbert Michaelis is going to drag the wreckage. Now actually he comes down the hill here. He can come, if he knows, he can come straight back up the hill into the back of the paddock, can't he?
Yeah, but you see, what Yvan's trying to do is get that car back, because if they get it back, they can at least get it repaired. Now we'll see where Yvan's back in. He's on the outside here, coming down round probably Rickard Rydell. Rick's in the middle of that with Nick Larini. And Yvan has been really careful around the outside of that lot.
Gets alongside
Farfus.
Comes up the hill, up to Druids. Now, how does this start? Do you know that's Yvan and Farfus? That was Muller and Farfus. 3, there was somebody inside them, didn't see who, but the 3 of them squeezed, and as they were trying to turn, John, the wheel, Yvan Muller turns Farfus, that was Larini inside.
Yeah, but I think what happened was somebody ran into the back of Yvan and pushed him into Farfus. But that Volvo of Dahlgren's doesn't look as though it's had an accident.
Well, it just got stopped. Norbert Michaelis was on the grass there. Nobody ran into the back of Yvan. He just ran out of grip under braking. And I think, was that Postiglione? No, I'm not sure it was, actually. Postiglione's still going, so it was the other. It was Felix Portero who bounced up in the air.
No, it might have been Engstler.
No, it was one of the Protein BMWs. So
Van's going to drag this back, because they need to get this car back to the pits so he can at least work on it.
Well, he's not going to be able to drive it any further. The problem is, of course, it's the front wheel. That's one of the driven wheels. He's got one-wheel drive plus no steering, so it's almost impossible to move it. He's going to have to wait for a flatbed, but they will take him back. Oh, they're going to try. He desperately needs to get this back, because, John, every second now they could be working on the car. That's Norbert Michaelis. He didn't make it up into the back of the pits. Not quite sure why he's got Tom Cornell's helmet on, but
Yvan, even if they get this car repaired, Yvan has got to start on the back of the grid.
Yes, but at least if they get it repaired, he can try and start. Now, Michaelis trying to get back. I don't think he realised that rear wheel was not connected by anything other than the brake line. I mean, it's just attached to the car.
That's a great shame, because he had all the potential of getting a good result. See, there's damage there on Tom Coronel's car.
Yeah.
Both the Volvos, Lucas Oda.
Yeah, there's Postiglione, he's okay. So it was Portero, our Indy points leader, who got bounced up in the air. Poulsen, Ladigin, Engstler, Geipel, all the rest. Well, Yvan's car's going to be dragged out of the way.
Yeah, they're only dragging it out of the way. They're not taking it back to the pits. Well, what he really needs is that on a flatbed to get it back to the pits.
The good news for him is that there is a couple of hours before race 2, so it's not 15 minutes back-to-back races as we've had at a few of the race weekends. That's a blessing. But yeah, now he's thinking, This is a double zero weekend here at Brands Hatch of all places. This is his second home race.
Yeah.
And Postiglione, Norbert Michaelis here. What a tough time for him. He was right in the front again in the Seat Leon Eurocup race this morning. Had a really good run, but he just got... it was inside. He got inside Coronel. That's what broke the wheel. Just in the left corner of the screen, as all the BMWs were bouncing in the air, he got inside Coronel, and that's what did the damage.
See, Druids is always one of those corners where you barrel up there. You're arriving there at, I don't know, 120 miles an hour. You come right down to second gear, 45 miles an hour. And it's very easy to just miss the braking very slightly, particularly if it's been a little bit damp up there. And there's always that concertina effect where the guys in front brake and the guys behind don't quite brake as much, and there's usually always some form of incident.
Well, as you come up the hill, you're not braking uphill, you brake just as it levels out, because there's a little crest, isn't there, and it levels out. And so if you don't get the braking done now as it levels up here, suddenly there's much less braking effect, and you go cannoning into the cars in front.
I think there's an awful lot of cars involved in that got some form of damage, so even if they're not as badly damaged as Michaelis or Van Muller's, I think you'll find that there's quite a few cars have got suspension damage. The track will be out. They'll not be just quite handling as well as they would like. So, we're hearing now that the safety car is going to put the lights out, and the restart will be on this lap. But that's giving the guys a little time to get some heat in the tyres, heat in the brakes, figure out whether the track is in any way damp anywhere. So we're going to have a good old race here. Rob did a great job to get right in front at the start there.
Absolutely, and I think Alain was being very cautious into the first corner, because of course they didn't know how wet it was going to be. They know how wet it was when they were last there 4 minutes earlier. They didn't know how much rain had fallen in the meantime, so I think very sensible as well. But Rob took his chance around the outside. Of course, he thinks this track owes him a living. Hans stuck there in the middle of the Seat pit wall. So now the race extended to 16 laps from its original 14 lap distance, because the safety car, we're getting ready to go green once more. Rob Huff leads the field out of the final corner. Here we go. Rob Huff, Alain Menu, Andy Priaulx, the top three, all former winners in the championship, but only two of them have won at this track. Huff should have done, in fact Priaulx should have done in the rain as well, skated off front a restart from behind the safety car in the rain and handed the win to Alain Menu. Menu won twice in a row. Priaulx also a winner here last year. Tarquini and Rydell at the Seat, then Larini in the Chevrolet, then Montero, and Jürg Muller is in 8th. Ahead of Coronel and Daste, top independents, sweeping out of Graham Hill Bend around Cooper Straight, as it's known. Doesn't look exactly straight, does it? Otherwise known as Bottom Bend. Sweeping into Surtees. And John, it does look as though that safety car has actually allowed the track to dry out a little bit, as Tommy Rustad picks up a place, going back in front of Jordi Genet, yes.
No, I think Rustad, he's raced at Brands, he's raced in the British Touring Car Championship before, but never on this Grand Prix track, so it's all a bit of an experience for him. But that little car seems to be quite capable of being very fast today.
And right behind that battle for 16 was James Thompson. Now, if Thompson can get up into maybe a top dozen position, that would be great. But of course, it's all about getting the mileage under the wheels of that car. Portero's damaged BMW had a look, but Portero doesn't know this track the way that Tomo does after all the years he's raced here in the British Touring Car Championship. So Tomo really looking quite aggressive now. He's closing up on the back of this queue. Jordi Genet right in front of him in a turbo diesel Seat Leon, and nothing wrong with it. So for Tomo's Lada, this is a really good test to show how quickly it actually could go. He's right
Van Lagen in the other lap is 11th place. I mean, he's absolutely flying.
So Van Lagen, if there's a little bit of carnage in front, might end up in the points. Could you imagine that on
the
pole
for
race 2?
For the second race.
What a real story that would be. Huff, Menu and Priaulx fastest lap.
Priaulx's the fastest man on the track now, and he's really looking like he's getting his sleeves rolled up to have a go at both of these Chevrolets. The trouble is that Rob looks as though he's a little bit slower than Alain here.
He is.
And I'm quite sure Alain's busy on the radio saying, I'm faster, I've got a BMW biting my back bumper here. Yeah. Come on, get on with it.
Oh, and
as Priaulx goes down the inside.
Well, you can go early at Surtees, but you lose on the exit, don't you? Let's see from Priaulx's viewpoint. The Chevrolet's had the racing line. It
compromises the speed up the straight. As you can see, Andy's dropped 2 or 3 lengths there.
And here comes Gabrielli. Look, Menu's passing Huff. Yes, he is. Menu goes into the lead, and Gabriele Tarquini, I thought, would have a good run there on Priaulx. Didn't close enough up to Hawthorn. Huff drifts over onto the grass, cleans the tyres a little with a bit of a shake of the steering.
I'm not sure he was trying to clean the tyres. I think he was hanging on to an accident there.
Priaulx, fastest man.
You could see that Alain Menu was the fastest of these two Chevrolets, and just he had to get past Huffy before Huffy held them both back. That was always going to be the problem. Now, the best thing for these two is that Gabriele Tarquini is going to pester the life out of Andy Priaulx here, which will take his movement forward. You know, he'll be watching his mirrors as much as he is looking at the front screen.
I'm not sure Huff is going to hang on to second. I think Priaulx is much quicker. Car 18 reported to be losing fluid. Well,
that's Van Lagen.
That's more damage from Jaap van Lagen. He's dropped now down to 13th. Alex Zanardi and Tom Boardman have both gone by him, so he might have gone into the pits. There's the situation on lap 5. Menu from Huff and Priaulx, but yeah, I don't think Huff is long for this place, and that is Priaulx's bumper cam. He's right into Rob Huff under braking at Druids, loses ground. Tarquini's going to try and come around the outside of Graham Hill Bend. Oh, that's a non-starter. But Huff is the cork in the bottle here, isn't it? And Priaulx, big slide. Tarquini's got to run on the inside
of him here. He'll get that one.
He's through into Surtees.
And that's going to compromise Andy's speed on the way up the back straight.
It'll compromise
and Rydell will get him as well.
Yes, Rydell will get him. This is Andy's bumper cam. Yep. Ricard will be trying to find a way around the outside, and he knows this track like the back of his hand as well. Larini's got pressure from behind from Thiago Montero and Jörg Muller.
While Menu just disappears off in the distance here.
Absolutely. So that little bump there at Druids from Andy Priaulx on Rob Huff really cost the Guernseyman. He really dropped a lot of speed and lost a place there. There's Jörg Muller in 8th at the moment, so he won't be too worried about going very high up the order. Safety car on standby.
Someone had gone off. That was all. It was on standby only.
Farfus now up to 20th, by the way.
You can see Andy just lost that little bit of momentum there. Got a bit ragged on bottom bend, and then a long bottom straight. Gabriele just capitalised on that and took it.
Look at this massive queue. This is Huff, Priaulx, Tarquini, Rydell, Larini, Montero, Jörg Muller, Coronel, Daste, Zanardi, Boardman and Van Lagen and Postiglione. Just off the back of it.
Tommy Rustad's hit someone.
He really has had a big shunt. Let's have a look here. Oh my goodness, that was Hernandez, Postiglione, and Rustad had nowhere to go.
Oh, got both ends of it.
Oh my goodness me. So... Oh, and that was, well, in fact, Rustad came down the grass on the inside of Graham Hill Bend trying to recover from something earlier on. Hernandez got tagged by Postiglione, and everybody else, whammo, Engstler trying to find a gap in the middle.
That's Thompson up on the grass there at the top end.
Lost ground there as well. So Engstler into the pits.
That's got the track out a little bit.
Right front corner will need rebuilding. Safety car is out. So here we go. It's picked up Menu, Huff, Tarquini. So we will have no further extension of the race distance. The safety car is back on track.
And surprise, surprise, here we go. Now,
this is the move Tarquini made.
That was a good move Tarquini made on Priaulx. Pushed him out onto the dirty side of it. Allowed Rick Rydell just to have a look, but Andy pulls back over on him to shut him out.
And Van Lagen is out. Well, whatever he was losing, he's lost it, hasn't he?
He's lost lots of it. It's obviously they're having quite a lot of trouble with that engine department of that ladder. If they get that cured, the car could be reasonably quick.
And this is Philip Geipel being passed by Augusto Farfus down into Paddock Hill Bend. So Farfus moving up the order, and Farfus after that shunt now 13th. He was 20th on the previous lap, so that's 7 places he's gained. Mind you, most of the cars damaged there. He went by Christian Poulsen. Well, that was a gimme, wasn't it? That was an easy pass there. He'll get by Felix Portero. This is Andy Priaulx's view of the swap between Menu and Huff. And
I think Huffy, he gave Alain that corner. I mean, he was quite conscious, and unless someone said on the radio, Rob, you got to let him have it. But I can't see that being the case, because Rob's 5th in the championship and Alain is 13th, so that wasn't the case. I think Rob obviously realised that Alain was faster. He gave him the corner. It was the sort of line, he pulled to the right, let him have it. Looked that way to me anyway.
Restarting then, Alain Menu this time takes the green flag first ahead of Rob Huff. Gabriele Tarquini is the best of the Seats in 3rd, then the white BMW of Priaulx, then a little gap back to Nicola Larini, and Ricard Rydell, and Nicola Larini a long way behind. What, were they all caught by surprise? The safety car was coming in. That was some shocking restarting all the way down the order. So Menu and Huff first and second. Now, what is it with Huffy? Do you think, did he just have slightly wrong tyre pressures and the tyres didn't come up to temperature quickly enough in the first couple of laps?
No, I think
let Alain go.
I think Alain's car just looked as though it had a better balance, and it was quite clear that maybe there was a discussion before it's more important for these blokes. I don't think they're going to win. You're going to see a Chevrolet driver win the World Championship this year, but I think they probably, as a team, had a discussion beforehand, said, listen, if you feel you're faster, then, you know, flash the lights or whatever. There's been a discussion. Rob just looked like he knew Alain had a faster car.
So on board with Rob Huff, right behind is Gabriele Tarquini. Tarquini goes in early and sharp into Hawthorne. Of course, Gabriele knows this track as well from his time here with Alfa Romeo in the British Touring Car Championship. Andy Priaulx right behind him, third and fourth, and Priaulx just shuffled off the podium by that move that he made on Huff at Druids, and Tarquini capitalised. But it does look again as though Andy is a little bit quicker. There's some debris down on the start-finish line. The left side, John, that's the racing line, but only if you're overtaking.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's too big a problem because the start-finish line's quite wide here. But Jörg Müller's up to 8th place, having started in 13th, so he's having a blinding race, just taking advantage of everyone bashing into each other.
Yeah,
here.
He was in 8th after that first corner shunt and determined not to move up or down from there. Tom Coronel's behind him in 9th, so won't be worrying too much about that. Again with Priaulx.
Menu just done the fastest lap of the race there.
So he has, pulling away again. Rob Huff, quick in the second sector as well.
Yeah, he's 4/10 faster than Rob Huff. So the car, that car of Alain's is quite clearly a faster Chevrolet at the moment.
Augusto is 13th. On the back of this queue, just coming out of Druids, is Augusto Farfus behind Jörg Müller by 4 places. Now, Farfus has got to get by Boardman, then he gets a free pass from Zanardi, another free pass from Daste. That's Farfus going by Philip Geipel. And at that stage, he was tucking in right behind Thompson. No, it can't have been Thompson. It must have been Ladigan a lap down. There's Coronel's damaged car. Yeah. Farfus in the queue at the back there. So Boardman's black Seat is the first one he's got to pass. And then, of course, he gets the free pass on Zanardi. Then he gets a free pass on Daste. So he's got to deal with these 2 Seats. But Tom Boardman looking pretty racy here.
He's got his elbows out. There's no way he's coming through.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, for Boardman, this is his local track, and he'll want to prove a point here.
Well, now you see, if he does get by these 2 Seats, then I'm afraid Jörg Müller's 8th place is a goner, because Augusto will be given that, and he will start from pole for race 2. And again, having to dig himself out of a huge hole after a first lap problem. Oh my goodness me!
That's a shortcut on the Indy track.
Yeah, he
Christian Poulsen
got into Surtees and started going through McLaren without realising, of course, he should have gone left. He went right. So Christian Poulsen running out of brakes there for a moment. He was battling with Felix Portero.
I think Farfus is going to get extremely frustrated with sitting behind Tom Boardman.
Oh no, he's just passed him. Yeah, great view from Coronel's car as we sit in the battle for 9th. Daste right behind, little tap under braking. Coronel holds his line well.
Boardman got him back.
Excellent, yes he did, repassed. Well, Augusto lunged to the inside at Paddock.
And he's
of course,
back through again.
You can counter there, and Tom turns in and looks at the inside line, perhaps to go up to Surtees. So it's not all done. Farfus defends that one hard and hard again. And he stays there ahead of Tom Boardman in 12th place. But great racing by Boardman, not overawed by racing against these stars. And Farfus, Tom wasn't quite online.
He wasn't letting him away with that one, was he?
Not quite. Menu's not really escaped, has he?
I don't know. He's got sort of 8-10 car lengths there. That's you know, in this championship, you've escaped when you've got 10 car lengths.
Yeah, but he had that at the restart pretty much. Huff in 2nd, Tarquini there in 3rd, Priaulx in 4th, not able to do anything about the Seat. Lap 10 of 16, so maybe in the next 2 or 3 laps the BMWs will be able to do more about the Seats. Now here comes Farfus. Zanardi when he catches him, and Daste in those BMWs will have to let him through, but he's got to get there first.
Yeah, Dahlgren in the little Volvo C30 just set his own personal fastest lap of the race. Now he's got his head down, concentrating on it. He started 25th. He's now up to 16th, so he's having a right good race at the moment.
And don't forget, he got blocked as well in that big hold-up at the first corner at Druid, so he went right back again. The positions he'd made up at the start, he lost again. There's Tomo. Thompson passes a BMW up the inside under braking. Great stuff to go by Hernandez. All right, it's 17th, but it's showing that he's got a car that he can actually race with, well, one of the best cars in the business.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Really encouraging progress this weekend for Thompson and the new Lada.
I think when the Volvo CE30 there gets up on the back of this bunch, there's Portero, Genet, Boardman, Farfus, whole bunch.
Change for third. Priaulx moves up into third place. That's a great move by Andy Priaulx. Alain Menu, Rob Huff first and second. Priaulx just doing exactly what Tarquini had done 4 laps earlier, going inside as they went through Surtees. And here's the reason why. Look, Gabrielli having trouble holding the line. So is Rob Huff, though. The front-wheel drive car starting to struggle a little, and Priaulx turning in nice and tight.
I'm surprised Gabrielli let him away with that. I mean, that was just... He just missed his turning point there by, I don't know, a metre. And Andy was just quick as a flash to capitalise on it. But he's... I think this race could end up with 2 Chevys and a BMW.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, well, that's where it's been in the past. It's a track that suited both. Now then, let's see what he can do about Rob Huff. Menu's last lap, 1:34.7, Huff 35.0, Priaulx 35.1, but now Menu 34.8, Huff 35.1, Priaulx 35.1. Bart Mampai on the pit wall watching Andy's progress, and you can do that as well inside World Touring Cars on Tuesday night. We'll show you the weekend from Andy Priaulx's viewpoint. Now again, looking at James Thompson. Now he did look good for points early on, but got shuffled right down the order in that first corner on Bouteillage. And he was in 17th place ahead of Sergio Hernandez. Looks like Hernandez has got him back, and that's Montero and Muller. Now Jörg trying to move further up the orders to get away from Augusto so he can stay in the top 8 for race 1. That's great. Now you see, if Augusto gets by Montero, then Augusto's 8th and on pole for race 1, so he doesn't need to pass Jörg, and even if he does, Jörg still stays in the top 8, so that's great thinking by Jörg Muller.
That's good for BMW at that point.
And it also shows that the Seats are starting to struggle now with tyres, and that might help Stefano D'Aste here in the top of the independence pile, battling with Tom Coronel. Coronel's car not as hard on its tyres, the petrol engine's not as heavy as the diesel, and there again is Philip Geipel and James Thompson. So again, a BMW versus the Lada.
You see that car of James's, when he just touches a curb, the car darts about the road. It's like it's
really
what
bouncy,
you would call torque steer. I mean, the steering is the biggest problem he has with this car at the moment. It just doesn't like curbs or even high white lines.
It's also bouncing a lot. You see it boing, 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 boing as it goes compared to the BMW. So still, I think they've got a lot of damping issues there. Now then, Andy Priaulx. Priaulx right behind Menu though, and Muller on the charge as well. Look, he's closing in on Nicola Laurini's Chevrolet as well. So top 2 BMWs, both with work to do on Chevrolets. Priaulx looking for second, and he's almost driving around the outside of the back of Huff's car at Druids. That's how much extra grip he's got.
That is not going to work.
Yeah, but he didn't want to back off or run into him. He is all over the place.
Yeah, it looks like Andy's just got a little bit more pace at this stage in the race with 4 laps to go. Rob's going to have to work pretty hard here to hold him off, I think.
Yeah, and I think Priaulx might have the pace even to win this race. He's only 2.5 seconds behind Alain Menu, the race leader. He's only got 2.5 laps to do it in, though. This is lap 13 of 6. No, 3 after this, so 3.5 laps.
That's not going to happen, because Menu's doing a 34.9, Priaulx's doing a 34.9. 2 1,000ths of a second within each other's time. So I doubt if Priaulx, even if he gets past Huff, is going to catch Menu.
Yeah, but he's only doing that speed because he's stuck behind Huff. We just saw Farfus moving up 2 places. He's now 10th. He got free passes from Zanardi and D'Aste, and Thompson loses that battle with Geipel there.
You just saw Murray Walker sitting in the BMW pit there. He's guest of BMW this weekend. He might want to come up here in the commentary booth and give us a hand.
Actually, you and Murray, I'd sit and watch that. I'll take that for $1. Alain Menu leads still, but here's the battle for second. Rob Huff and Andy Priaulx, nothing in it, and Huff now will have to defend like Billy O for this Chevrolet 1-2, because Priaulx has clearly got a quicker car. Tarquini dropped in the background, but 4th place with Ivan Muller not scoring, he'll take that. Ricard Rydell 5th, ditto. He'll happily take those points with Ivan not scoring. Jörg Muller in 6th ahead of Nicola Laurini now, so good pass, confirmation that Muller did get by Laurini. So Muller's moving up the order and doing himself no end of good. Here comes Priaulx down the inside of Graham Hill Bend, and a late trail break from Rob Huff just holds him off.
Menu was a half a second a lap slower on that last lap there. I think he's having a tyre problem as well, because it looks like Rob's going to struggle with the front end of the car.
Yep.
You've got a lot of, you could just see the front wheels there. He's got a little bit more understeer, I think, than he would like through the fast stuff, and that's where Andy is just going to capitalise on it. But I think Alain doesn't want to see a repeat of last year, where at this point in the race Rob was leading and it blew a tyre because they had too much camber on it.
Farfus past Coronel. This is for 9th place. He's almost there, and Jörg has got to pray that as Tom Coronel gets tagged by Zanardi, does he, or was that just Coronel having a wild weave off the curbs? Here comes Boardman inside Alex. Great move through Westfield, holds the inside line at Dingledale. There's a little rub as they get up to Sheen Curve, but Boardman moves up. Tom really fired up. He's at a track he knows even remotely, and suddenly it's making such a big difference to him. He's really looking aggressive. He's now second in the independents category. Well, here is the battle behind Nicola Larini. He's got Thiago Montero right behind him. They're 7th and 8th. Farfus is still, where is he, like second and a half behind them?
Menu has been really careful with his tyres, because he's again gone a little bit slower than he has been. The tyre drop off is just affecting the car slightly, but I think he's just being very careful. He's not under any pressure. His own teammates behind him. He's got 20 car lengths of a lead there. That's enough for him just to come off and not push it quite so hard through some of the corners. But this Andy's all over the back of Huff here like a raging dog.
But Huff is using all the road. And when was the last time you saw anybody on the white line on the left around Cooper Straight? Never. That's a hugely defensive line there. Down the inside goes Montero, gets by Larini. So yes, the Chevrolets are struggling here for tyre, clearly, just as they did last year. In the end, that tyre blowout that cost Huff victory in his 100th touring car start was a tyre and camber issue, and as a result they had to back off on how they were running the tyres for race 2, and they lost pace.
Andy's sizing him up here at every turn, just trying to work out. He's got 2 laps to go,
and they are much closer to Menu.
He's got one chance and one chance only, and he's just working out where he's stronger, where he can get him on the brakes, where could he get him or upset his rhythm and just nail him when he's not just at his best.
Okay, so here we go, heading on to the last lap. Alain Menu completing lap 15 of 16. So Menu will start the last lap with a gap of just around 2 seconds. It was 2.08, it's 2.1. That's how much Huff is holding up Prio. There is Farfus right behind Larini. This is going to be vital. It's for 8th place. Larini slows.
Yeah, there's something wrong with Larini.
Stopped. Well, Larini's pulled right off. Is it a puncture? Larini just absolutely stopped dead. So Farfus is in the top 8. That's incredible. Again, a huge recovery drive. He's not making it easy for himself, is he?
Not.
But Prio looking for second place, could not get inside Huff at Paddock or at Druids, and Rob is going to defend here, and Tarquinian Rydell might get a last lap lunge going on Prio. Out of Surtees, he's got the speed, but he can't find a way to get inside Huff.
I mean, Rob can block him all the way now, and flashing the lights at him is not really going to help. That's about as much good as a chocolate ashtray.
Oh my goodness me, look, suddenly, well, Larini's car, that's not even the engine just died. No, he was on the brakes, it just stopped. Something came up and he just pulled right off immediately.
Something very mechanically went wrong with that car there.
Very major.
Let's get back to the main action here, find out what's happening. Because Andy's just
look how close the Sats are. Gabrielli senses another point or two here. Menu leading, Huff in second, Prio there in third. Can't find a way around Rob Huff. No. He's not going to get it now.
Not going to get it now, because he's not going to get him down into clearways. That's not going to happen.
No, there's a massive accident from the Seat Leon Euro Cup race as 2 drivers went wheel to wheel here through the final corner, tangled in massive shunt. But it's going to be victory again at Brands Hatch for Alain Menu. 3 years, 3 wins for the Chevrolet driver. Huff second, it's a Chevy 1-2. Prio third, Tarquinian Rydell. Jörg in 6th, Montero 7th, Augusto Farfus 8th, Daste wins from Coronel and Boardman in the Indies, 12th is Zanardi, Janae 13th, 14th Portero, Robert Dahlgren 15th ahead of Sergio Hernandez. Nick Larini does not finish, so Philip Geipel 17th, Thompson in 18th place. Little reward for Tomo for all that hard work. Kirill Ladigan will be in 19th place, I think, if he is still running at the flag. But few Chevrolet flags waving there. And some happy smiling faces at RBM, BMW Team UK, and Andy Priaulx worked really hard for that. Got himself back up into third, but those laps he spent behind Tarquini possibly cost him a chance to win this race. Well, two very disappointed Seat drivers on the left, Yvan Muller, the world champion, on the right, Norbert Michaelis.
That's Rob Huff's mum there.
Rob's mum and Eric Nev's wife. Rob's dad with his back to us, so Huff family Robinson will be very happy with that. So will La Famille Menu. Caroline and the kids are here as well with Alain. And again, you know, they've lived here for so long in the Oxford area. Only last year moved back to Switzerland, where they're building themselves a new house. So it's not like it's like home for them. For the last 15 years, it is home for them.
I mean, Caroline actually said to me recently that she would love to have moved back to England. So really happy with a race win here, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Chevrolet want to know what happened to Nick Larini's engine. Look at that. That's the stalking walk of a very unhappy chappie. Alain Menu comes down into Parc Fermé. Real cars, real racing, really exciting here at Brands Hatch, and even for him I think there's a story to tell. Don't roll all the way back down the hill, Alain, get the brakes on. His car did not look like it was comfortably the quickest out there, but he made his move after the restart behind the safety car to get in front of Rob Huff and took victory. He's won in the wet, he's won in the dry, he's won again in the dry here. And for Yvan Muller, well, his home from home as well. Not wildly overjoyed, but Augusto Farfus, look at that, 8th place. He's delighted with that because it gives him the opportunity for another 11-point weekend, and he knows Yvan Muller was on the side of the track in race 1.
If Augusto Farfus can actually start from pole, he does. He can then win the second race. That would make him only 4 points behind
Muller, but Tarquini would take the lead in the championship. So all sorts of topsy-turvy action here at Brands. Interesting race. Well, Louise Beckett is down in the Parc Fermé area, down in winner's circle, waiting to chat to our race winner. Let's hear from Alain Menu. Everybody at Chevrolet very happy.
Alain, congratulations. You've kept your reputation of victories at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm very pleased, you know, not only for RML and Chevrolet, of course, but I have to admit, I'm a bit selfish, mainly for me, because the last 3 meetings have been on the receiving end of like other drivers' mistakes. And really, they were really bad for me, so to get the pole and win here, Brands Hatch, you know, it's my home track, really. It's almost like home here for me, so it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there is no Swiss round, there is no Swiss racing track that he can ever go to, so yes, very much a home race for him here. And Menu, pole position as he said, and it was a really great fight in qualifying, and just as close as well between Chevrolet and BMW in the race. Priaulx not able to capitalise, and poor Farfus should have been right there with a chance at the podium as well, but got knocked out in that first lap tangle by Yvan Muller. In the end, managed to claw his way right back up. All right, he got a few free passes on the way, but none of the dramatic team orders coming in that we saw in Porto. There's the result. Makes great reading for Chevrolet, makes great reading for BMW, and actually it's not exactly shoddy for Seat either, although Yvan Muller's not there. Again, they had 3 cars in the points, John, for their premier goal, the Manufacturers' Championship. That's good for them too.
Yeah, it is, and it's opened the whole championship out, because Yvan Muller now leads with 80 points from Gabriele Tarquini with 71, so there's 9 points there. Then it's third place Augusto Farfus with 66 points, and he's got the advantage now. He starts on pole position from a standing start, with the BMWs we know are very, very good in standing starts, and Yvan Muller is way back on the second grid. And I'd be surprised if Yvan can pull any points out of this weekend. It's looking pretty dreadful for him this weekend.
Well, he's certainly getting ready to pull the car out now. The truck has finally arrived. Next race will start at 2. It's already nearly 12:30 here. Stefano D'Aste worked really hard for that, had no way by Coronel till eventually Tom's tyres cried enough, and Coronel and Boardman just 0.8 of a second apart at line. Tom Boardman third in the Indies category. Really important result for him. That's going to give him all sorts of morale boosting again. But Daste needed those points to try and rein in Coronel, and most importantly for the independence category, of course, Felix Portero, the leader. He was only 4th in the Indies, so just losing a tiny little bit of ground there. But the Drivers' Championship with Ivan Muller not scoring is looking increasingly close. And now you see, with Priaulx and Jörg Muller both scoring well, they're starting to really suffer from that Porto decision to take them both out of the points. It does mean that all BMW's eggs are increasingly in the same basket, and it's never a happy position to find yourself in. Well, it started under grey clouds, threatening with rain and actually sprinkling on the warm-up lap and lap 1, but it ended a bright, sunny race full of action, incident and drama. 2 safety cars, lots of damaged kit, but plenty of entertaining racing as well. And for the championship, well, it's made a big difference at the top of the drivers' standings, and that is always a good thing. Hurry, Squiggle, hurry! Andy Priaulx had a great race, but Chevrolet ended up in front of him with a 1-2. Seat, their championship leader and reigning world champion Ivan Muller, had a tough time. For him to come to Brands Hatch of all places and be facing down the barrel of his first 0-0 weekend in 3 seasons, that's got to be tough to take. So, dramatic action from race 1, and Ivan Muller might be looking at a 0-0 race weekend. Now, last year, John, winning the championship, Ivan only dropped a 0 in 1 single race weekend. There's Graham Priaulx, Andy's dad, down there with Andy's wife, kids, and Mudley Talker there as well as part of the BMW fraternity. Rob Huff in second. There's his dad, his mum here, his girlfriend, half the family, most of Cambridge. And Alain Menu again, wife, family, everybody. This is a real family place for so many of these drivers, because either they live close by or they used to live close by.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Stefano Daste, the only foreigner on the podium. I don't think he's ever lived or raced in the UK.
He probably didn't know where the UK was up until today.
He's raced here a couple of seasons. There's
Ronnie from Chevrolet.
Yay.
And a happy bunch of Chevy drivers there.
The Swiss anthem for our winning driver, Alain Menu, the American anthem for our winning constructor, Chevrolet. And you can see the Swiss flag there billowing like a spinnaker on a downwind beat. It's really quite blowy still. Trophy for 3rd place being presented by Belinda Pote of Marriott, one of the series sponsors. There's Joe Priaulx, Andy's wife. 2nd place goes to Rebirth. There's Rob's girlfriend. And Victor Alain Menu, 3 years in a row he's won here at Brands Hatch. This is a very happy hunting ground for him. We talked to him, didn't we, after the first win in the rain. He said, the last time I came here in a Ford I won as well. All right, it was 12 years in between, but nonetheless taking victory. And Dave Seward from Yokohama, UK, presenting the Yokohama Independence Trophy victory again to Stefano Daste. And if I find my bit of paper, I can tell you that is only his 4th win of the season, but he's still in contention, perhaps.
Alain Menu really, as he said there, needed that win selfishly, because out of 15 rounds this year, he has failed to score points on 11 of them. The other 3, he's won 2 out of those 3. So, you know, he's a guy, he's one of the older blokes out there. He's the old wily fox. He knows how to get it round, but he has just been on the receiving end of so many things that have gone wrong, whether it was mechanical, whether it was someone else's accident. He's been very unfortunate. and he's very capable of winning races. There is no argument about that.
Yeah, where's the
Alan,
champagne?
where's the champagne? Come on. And all that from a guy that doesn't drink very much.
Absolutely, no, but they want to celebrate in the traditional manner. Ian Titchmarsh, one of the famous voices of British motorsport, and of course for Ian and for you and I, John, and for many, many fans, Alain Menu very much a member of the British motorsport fraternity. Look at the championship then. Yvan Muller now 9 ahead of Gabriele Tarquini, Farfus 14 behind, Huff moves up ahead of Rydell, 29 behind, Jörg Muller and Andy Priaulx 6th and 7th. They too close on Yvan, but in front of them some of the others starting to squeeze away a little bit. And for Yvan Muller, well, he's still the championship leader, but if he doesn't get anything in race 2, then he may well end up losing his championship lead before he leaves Brands Hatch, his second home race, and that is going to be a tough pill to swallow. Stefano D'Aste, Tom Coronel and Tom Boardman will get a Brands Hatch podium moment as well for the independents. And there is Eric Neve. He's going to be very happy, the head of Chevrolet Racing, with a 1-2 result here. Small question mark over what happened to Augusto Farfus. Look at the way that the race went for Augusto Farfus rather, right down the order, plunged down to, well, I don't know what position that was. I'm sure he was right down 17th or 18th in the end, and had to claw his way right back into it. So really tough battle for him, but not quite as tough as Yvan Muller, who doesn't figure there because, of course, he didn't feature in the race basically past the first couple of corners.
But Farfus was second fastest lap of the race behind race winner Alain Menu, who was a tenth of a second faster than Farfus. So Farfus in that BMW has got a very, very capable car, and Andy Priaulx proved the point as well. Okay, his fastest lap was 4/10 slower, but I'm sure that they're in this 15-minute sort of window of opportunity for them to adjust the cars. Andy and his team, Manpai's lot, they'll be looking at how they can make that car just go a little bit quicker. And Andy starts, where does he start? He starts in 6th place on this second race, so he's got to work pretty hard to get some good points.
You've always had good results here, and today was no exception.
Yeah, I'm very pleased because the way my season has gone so far, it's been unbelievable. The last 3 meetings I got taken off either on the first corner or first lap from a driver behind me. After getting pole yesterday, I wanted that win for sure for RML and for Chevrolet, but I have to say I was a bit selfish on that one. I wanted it for me more than anybody else.
Once you got the lead back from Huff, you seemed to be the dominant performer. Did you feel the pressure from behind?
No, really. Like you've just said, I was surprised that I could pull away like that. And then, for the second half of the race, I just paced myself because we were not sure last year. My 2 teammates had a tire problem, so I wanted to be sure I wasn't going to get any problem on the last lap, so I slowed down a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as we suspected, it was a little bit of a tyre problem there for Rob Huff that really cost him a chance to win this race. But Alain Menu was able to capitalise, and Huff fought really hard to hang on to second place. A lot of pressure through the race for the early race leader. Let's hear from him now.
Rob Huff, it was a great start, but you were really battling with Andy at the end there. Was there a mistake or was there a problem?
No, just the front-wheel drive cars just didn't seem to handle the tyres quite as well throughout the race. It's very long corners here at Brands Hatch, and it obviously takes its toll on the front tyres a lot. But Andy and I had a great battle at the end there. It was very enjoyable. That's what racing's all about. Just didn't quite have the pace of Alain in that race, but no, very pleased with second for the championship positions.
And 1-2 is a great result for the team, Chevrolet's home race as well. Yeah,
exactly. We've got a lot of friends and family supporters here this weekend, so it's great for them to come and see a Chevrolet 1-2. The boys have worked really hard, and it's just desserts for everyone involved.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Well, always nice for the RML team, just an hour or so up the road in their home base, to be able to come to Brands Hatch, a track they know well, that they feel very comfortable with, and continue with the new cruise where they left off with the Luchetti, able to claim victory here.
Andy Priaulx, your hunger for the podium and the points was evident.
Yeah, it was a good race. I enjoyed racing with Rob. He defended really well during the whole race, and there was no way through. But I had really good speed. I don't know if I was quickest lap, but the car was really good. So I'm looking forward to race 2. It's a shame I couldn't get higher up, but you know that was down to Rob defending well, and we had a great car.
You know this track well, so what's the plan for race 2?
Well, yeah, I think Alain and Rob both know the track well, and everyone around me, so I think just make a really good start and try and get up there. You never know what might happen, and it's good that Augusto's on P8, so that means he's P1 for the next race, so hopefully BMW can take some good points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, very valid point is that Augusto Farfus, BMW's best placed driver, will start race 2 from pole position here. Priaulx, though, without a chance to win, it would seem, in race 2. And Ivan Muller, well, really tough time for the reigning world champion. His car very badly damaged. That's the front cross member waiting to be replaced.